It's always fun to do this. So I'm just going to share my screen because I would like to get that started, just in case I don't do it right. And, I know you asked me to introduce myself. So my background is first aid. I teach all the time, but here in Saskatchewan, I really try to promote the wilderness first aid. And so we're kind of one of the main providers out here. I volunteer with search and rescue. I'm part of the Adventure Smart program. And I get out to the mountains as much as possible and up north to paddle. And so my life kind of revolves around this. I have a very candid and open and honest view on first aid. And I just try to get you thinking because you're only responsible for yourself and your safety out there. So as I was thinking about this, like everybody's questions came in and they were like, how do I deal with this? How do I deal with that? This is not the place to like learn exactly how to do first aid, but I can answer some questions and encourage you to, keep doing your own, training and seeking that out in your own area. And so, we're here because all of you, I'm sure, go out in these habitats. And if we're connected to Kim, we're really curious about bear safety and other predator safety and large animals. So if we're going into these places, we need to be mindful of our first aid confidence and what we have and carry for first aid supplies. So the first thing I think it's really important to make sure that you understand that everything you're wearing, everything you're carrying, your entire pack is your first aid kit. If there is not some situation, especially because we're here, the animal encounter or post incident, that you will not be using the clothes off your back. There is no first aid kit that you will ever carry that will have enough stuff to deal with a large animal attack in the backcountry. So remember that everything you carry is something that has a dual purpose to it. And I think that's really important. I scour the internet looking for stories of people's mishaps. Like I'm addicted to it, okay? No one ever says they sure wish they left that first aid kit at home. There is always regret on not having enough stuff or not having the right stuff, or even just bringing it along. There's always regret. So learn from the others and don't leave that at home when you're packing a bag and you'd rather take more snacks than first aid kits. I will tell you that I have way too many first aid kits. I was going to show you a couple tonight. Forget it. I have 12 kicking around my house, in my car, in my backpack, in a different backpack, in my SAR back. It just, honestly, I have so many kits and all of them are different and all of them are unique to what I want them to be. So that is a project that takes time and energy and mindfulness. I will give you advice because you're from around the world. Lower your expectations on the commercial kits you can buy in a store. They are not made for traumatic incidents. And even if their clever marketing says that they have a certain amount of items in there, I can assure you when you take it all apart and look at it and lay it out, that you will be disappointed in the value or the quantity of what's in there. So a kit is only worth the price that they charge you for, but you will have to add to it if you really feel it important for your risk level and your activity. The other thing I would say is take first aid. See, I don't care if it's a 1 day or an 80-hour, it doesn't matter to me, but pursue first aid that matches the environment in which you go and recreate. And so a lot of us do workplace first aid training. Get out of there. Get into a wilderness first aid course. Go to a provider that lives, eats, and breathes this stuff. Get out of the classroom because that is where your real learning will now be enhanced and it will build upon what you maybe have already done. But seek it out in your area. It's so important. Now, when we talk about a first aid kit, I want you to think about it as a toolbox. When I teach industrial courses, most especially, men oftentimes think that they don't need first aid supplies. But if I reference that to being a toolbox, it starts to make a bit more sense that they can relate to. No offense, men, okay? It's a toolbox that carries certain tools that make the job of providing injury management easier. That's what it is. The thing that I see often, so I kind of monitor social media channels. I'm into a lot of like different avenues of like ultra running and ultra light backpacking and camping and paddling and so on. So a lot of times I see a saying that's said and shared that says, don't pack your fears. And I don't agree with that. I don't fear a bear encounter, but I respect the consequence if there is one. And so I don't want to be without certain tools that would make my job easier to manage my own or someone else's injury if that happened to a certain capacity. I'm not taking my massive first responder trauma kit with me, but knowing that my pack has versatility with all the items, I will absolutely always have more than band-aids and tape, which is a lot of what we see in first aid kit lists in some of these backpacking and hiking kind of worlds. Not that they're not important, but they won't help in an encounter or a serious injury or a fracture or a sprain. So like I said before, you have to supplement your kit. And I am not affiliated to any first aid kit provider or supplier at all. I shop around, I have them all. I'm not loyal to one specific brand, but there are some that are out there. They're great kits, they're a great starter point, but then go to your local stores or your pharmacies and add volume to that and look at what you have at home as well. So the question becomes, what should be in my kit? Everybody asks that. So the first thing I would tell you is have something that is for the small stuff. My advice, keep it separate. So Band-Aids, blister Band-Aids, blistwool, minor things, polysporin, small cuts, sure, that's separate. But then think about the big things that can happen. And the biggest thing in the hiking kind of industry is slip, trips, and falls, probably minor fractures, bleeding. And of course, because we're here with Kim, we oftentimes think about that encounter. So those two things are separate. They're two different toolboxes. Okay. So some of my absolutes, and maybe this is around the world, we're going to have different language for things, but some of the things that are always in my first aid kit. And I would tell you, like right now, my first aid kit is about a 3-liter dry bag that I've put together. I found this bag, I don't know, it's a no-name bag. So in that bag, I have a tourniquet. We'll talk about that. I have triangular bandages. I have a couple gauze rolls, some thicker either abdominal pads or combine pads. Heck, you want to go the route of maxi pads, I don't care. Sure. Shears. It's hard to cut clothing that needs to be cut with some sort of finesse, with a jackknife. And I don't want you hacking at my pants with a jackknife. A tensor, or in some places I hear it called an elastic bandage, is great for a multitude of injuries, including bleeding management and sprains. Non-stick pads for all those skin knees we get, a silver blanket as a shock management and shelter, and I keep that Band-Aid stuff separate. To me, that's really the key that makes my kit easier to use. And remember that if you have a kit and other people in your group have a kit, you have more volume. I was on a 9-day canoe trip and we were running out of supply with the volume of stuff that we had between the students and the leadership group. So sometimes you will not have enough stuff with your own kit. I find it to be a lame excuse that people in your group don't carry a first aid kit and they rely on you to, or you perhaps rely on somebody else to carry the first aid kit. Have your own kit. Be responsible for yourself. Contribute to the group supply. To me, that's social responsibility, to be honest with you. So like I said, keep your Band-Aids separate. You're going to go into them the most. I mean, most people they're using that on minor things. Keep it separate. You don't have to get into your big toolbox. It makes it so much easier. Think of them as two different toolboxes. Triangular bandages. People always challenge me, well, I can use my shirt. Great. Well, I don't know about you ladies, but I don't really feel like going down a trail in my sports bra because I had to take my shirt off to sling your broken shoulder or arm or whatever it is. The more that you have as tools in your kit, the more you can keep your clothes on. And when we deal with especially severe bleeding, you don't have enough clothes sometimes. So a couple of triangular bandages in a kit gives you more tools. So Kim, I stole this picture off your Facebook page. There are two things in the backcountry that we cannot replace. And I don't want to criminalize the bear or the cougar or the moose, because there are other things that can happen that lead you to be in a state of severe bleeding or in shock. But because we're here with Kim, that will be ultimately a major concern if there is an altercation or an encounter. And we can go as simple as a simple rolled ankle that is an open fracture could be bleeding as well. So these two things are probably two critical issues in the backcountry with a severely traumatic incident that will need a lot of first aid resources and a lot of first aid attention. So blood, you cannot replace that in the backcountry. Learning how to stop the bleeding, learning how to do proper pressure bandages, learning how to do direct pressure or wound packing or tourniquet application is a key part of most wilderness first aid courses. And now it's into regular first aid. And shock is something, I know that some of you would sit here and argue, and of course I can start a fire and I can get them warm and blah, blah, blah. That takes an obscene amount of time, especially when someone is suffering from a traumatic injury. You will not get warmth back the way you would if you were in your home. So a big piece of this, and it's the same tourniquet. In my first aid kit, I carry religiously a CAT Generation 7 tourniquet. It's made by North American Rescue. There are about 3 different brands out there that are probably top of the list of civilian accessible and reliable tourniquets. When you go to Amazon, when you go to some online providers, a lot of them are selling knockoff versions. And you would have to go into some Google research to realize why I'm so passionate about this. But I would not want my life-saving device to be a cheap alternative from an Amazon type store where that tourniquet has not been held to any patented or tested standards that may save my life one day. So I would encourage you to look into tourniquets, and I strongly encourage you, if you're in the area, especially in the United States, there are several options for Stop the Bleed programs, which is it's a one-off of a first aid course. It's its own program, and it's specifically catered to teaching people how to put tourniquets on, not just for backcountry use. A lot of it is even for, our civilian day-to-day life where things can happen even in your home. So here in Canada, it should be taught in all first aid courses. And if it's not, then something's wrong with that. It's a mandatory requirement now. The last piece of this before we go into the first aid part is, if we're talking about a backcountry emergency, one that you cannot reasonably handle yourself or self-extricate from that environment, the ability to communicate with search and rescue resources or emergency services is going to be something that might save a life or reduce the stress that you are experiencing in your incident. But I am telling you right now, you will have to wait. In most common areas, you could be waiting upwards of 2 hours or more, sometimes even overnight. So if you've gone out on this adventure and have not been prepared to stay overnight, let alone render first aid care during that endeavor, you're going to be stressed. It's not that you won't survive. It's maybe that the person will just struggle through their stress of their injury in the environment, but it will increase your stress level. And so the more preparedness that you do, the more you will, get to know your technology and the options that are out there, the more that you have a plan, the more that you pack, the less stress you have in an incident. And every time you come home from an adventure and nothing happened, aren't you freaking lucky? That is not a reason not to be prepared or pack things. And I will stand true and faithful to that statement. We should be grateful for the days that nothing happened. That doesn't mean we shouldn't take first aid. So I get in a rant because to me, that's the most important. Those are the mindfulness that I want you to have here. But I know everybody came here for the thought of teach me some first aid or answer my questions. And I think it's really important to give time to that instead of me ranting about my opinions. So I just wanted to stop for a second and see right now if there's any questions before we go into specific topics. I'm just going back through that. Oh, everybody just wants to know if it's gonna be recorded. It's funny, Kim, I see that there's people on here that have they're probably rolling their eyes and I've heard her say this before. Some of my friends are moving. It's good. Okay. Can you put a first aid list slide back up? I sure can. Hold on. Oh, no. I want to go this way. So what we could do, Kim, I could send you a PDF. I kind of make up that PDF. Whoa, there we go. And we could provide that through your resources, or you can send it to participants. I think that would be
a fantastic idea.
It's a list I kind of make. It's an ongoing changing list, but it covers the basics of this stuff. And then it also kind of lists like the essentials, like those 10 essentials that we oftentimes see is promoted as essential tools that varies for all activities, right? So I'll send that to you after, Kim. Okay, any questions? If not, I'm going to move on. Okay, so I want to move on then, because I asked the Rec Safe community ambassadors if there was anything that they had questions about in preparedness of this. And a lot of times there's things that I feel like I don't even have enough time to answer, but I'll kind of give it my quick version. And Kim and I felt very near and dear that we should talk about this first, because all seriousness aside, we teach, we promote, we encourage people to have this bear spray, and there's probably more mishaps of people getting it like in their eyes or falsely sprayed or on their hands, that it's probably more comical than dangerous. But I think you should share your story.
Oh gosh, thanks. It is true. I get calls all the time from industry and just people that I know are on Facebook, and they're like, my kid just sprayed the bear spray in the tent or in the house, or I'm like, or they got into their truck and they were wearing their bear spray like in their on their holster. They sat down and then they went to put their seatbelt on and they're like, psh. They're like, oh shoot, I'm wearing my bear spray. But yes, I was out hiking with a friend and two dogs on leash. And we got ourselves, unfortunately, we ended up off trail into like a little bit of a cliffed off area. And we're like, oh no, we're cliffed out. We need to turn around. And then we looked across the valley there and this pass, and there was a grizzly bear coming down the trail, which is the trail we were supposed to be on. And it was coming in our direction. And so I looked at my friend and I said, like, get out your bear spray and we'll let the bear know we're here. And the bear just kept walking towards us. And she went to go grab her bear spray, and she's got two leashes in her hand and she's trying to wrestle the leashes. And she gets out her bear spray and she accidentally pulls off the safety and sprays me directly in the face at like about a foot, less than a foot. And I had sunglasses on, and I remember like closing my eyes when I heard the sound, and then just like try to hold my breath and talk to her, and I'm just like, right. And I don't remember the pain of it as much as just thinking, if I don't deal with this bear in front of us, like we're in way more trouble than what's happening to me. So I don't remember the pain of it at that time, but I just remember her saying sorry over and over and over again. I'm like, hey, we gotta deal with the bear. And after we dealt with the bear, and we managed to get the bear to leave, we then started taking our water bottles and trying to get as much bear spray off of myself. And then she ended up getting it on her hands from the clip and then touched her eyes. We just looked like a total disaster. And we found 17 hikers on the trail, I remember, because I took all of their water bottles.
So Kim, like how much like genuine relief did that water give you?
It definitely helped, but it just kind of spread it around more too. So and yeah, and there was no major water source until I got down the mountain, and it's hot, I'm sweating. It didn't occur to me to take off my clothes. I just was pouring it all over myself, because you're just so scared, and you're in a shock state, right? Because you've just dealt with a large carnivore that tried to eat us, and the bear was predatory, so it was pretty scary. And then we got down to the lake and then started throwing ourselves in the water. But honestly, it took hours for the burning sensation to stop. And I made the mistake of trying a hot shower when I got home, which caused the bear spray to then become a steam cloud, which I then breathed in and then started having a hard time breathing. So it's great. It's great. Great times.
You know, there's nothing like a genuine learning experience, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah. So the first thing like we have to think about, if anything's burning, it doesn't matter if it's bear spray or some sort of plant-based thing or from your kitchen. If it's burning, we need to cool it. And so that's why we innately, we instinctually, we go for water, because water has that immediate cooling effect, but bear spray isn't oil. And that oil is what like just like attaches to your skin and doesn't wash away with just a flushing of water. So a couple of things with that is, first off, embrace the suck. That's it. Like, this is going to suck. It is not going to kill you. It's an irritant. It sucks. And that's just what you have to accept, especially when it's in your eye. Remember that it is an oil that you can spread. So the more that you touch, the more that you rub, the more that you scratch, the more that you transfer, you are just contributing to the problem. So one of the things, as hard as it is to say, is to try to keep your hands away from your face and keep that away. And if it's in your eye, I know you're going to want to rub it and stuff like that, but just try your best to keep your hands away from your face. Now, one of the things that for myself, when we've practiced, we went to a very remote place and a very like gravel place, and we sprayed off some bear spray that was expired. And even just by touching the cans and putting them down and moving them around, we had got some on our hands. So the first lesson that I learned real life is that soap is amazing. Now, that particular day, a long time ago, I only had powdered soap. So we just had this little bottle of powdered soap, and we just put it in our hands and started scrubbing like crazy, just trying to work up that oil and get it off our skin. And then we used whatever water we had to get that off. And it did help. It did lessen. I'm sure we missed bits of it, but it definitely lessened the burning on my hands. Now, especially when I travel in bear country, it's just another item that's in my first aid kit that I completely forget about, honestly. But I went to Amazon and bought these little, like, I think they're like 1 ounce bottles. And I now put in Dawn dish soap. I mean, they're using it to clean oil slicks off of ducks and waterfowl and stuff like that. It's very good at cutting grease. So that's kind of what I have as a little source of soap. Is it all natural and biodegradable? I don't know. Don't care. It's my face and my hands. For the small amount that I need to use this for, if ever, then I will use it. I'm sure any soap would work. I've heard people be like, oh, well, it will burn my eyes. Well, sweetheart, everything's going to burn your eyes if you have it in your eyes. So some responders that I know that work with like assaults, like in urban centers, are like, well, you're just trading one kind of burning for a different one. And the soap is the thing that's going to try and get that off. I haven't had to use it, but some people think that maybe Johnson & Johnson's, like the no tear stuff, might be a little bit better for our psychology. So whatever it may be, I think soap and scrubbing and really trying to get that oil off is going to be the thing that helps you the most. Funny enough, so I buy gear just to see what it is. And through, I think it was Kodiak Canada, but they had an eye wash thing. It's Sabre is the brand, but it's supposed to go on any water bottle that, a regular water bottle that would fit. And it sucks the water up and it allows you to flush your eye. It's kind of like a makeshift eye wash bottle adapter. I'm not carrying this backpacking. It kind of just stays in my camper, to be honest with you. But it's just another option that's out there. It's not going to do the volume that you're going to want. But at least it's something if you're looking at that. So get the oil off with soap. And, if it's soap leaves or Dawn or powdered soap, something is better than nothing. And I think that's probably your best first aid out there, besides time and like continuous flushing to relieve that burning pain. It worries me sometimes when I think about that spray back in my face, not even accidental, just you've sprayed a bear, the wind was in the wrong direction. But you have to hope that you get it right if you have to use that spray. And if you do get it in your eyes, you have to try your best to keep your eyes open, to keep yourself watching what's going on and be aware of your situation. It's just, it would be a crazy intense situation if it was really a bear that you were concerned about. So that's the thing with bear spray. And I love reading these comments. Like, I'm glad I'm not the only one that have had oops encounters with bear spray, that's for sure. Yeah, Sarah, inert spray cans are awesome. Whoever your provider is, I buy them all the time for my courses, and it's amazing how people feel so much more confident by playing with the inert bear spray. It's a great thing to do, especially early season as you're heading out, is to invest in that one opportunity to practice with something that won't burn you and be a waste as well. So another question that came about was like, just blisters. Like, here we're going from like bear spray and the thought of like potential bear encounters to like stupid things like blisters. Well, I will be honest with you. I think I get more stories of people who have not summited or achieved some sort of objective because of blisters than of like the nasty fractures and trauma and things like that can happen. it is more likely that you will have these minor incidents and inconveniences than you will have anything big and dangerous and life-threatening. And so, you know, I'll admit, I have not had a blister that ruined my day. I've had a hot spot that has developed on my hand from paddling, but I've never had a blister because the biggest part of that is I'm very, very focused on prevention. So Kim and I both really, we kind of, you know, promote and support Blisswool is a great preventative. It's a chunk of wool. I actually have some right here. Blisswool is great, and there's other resources out there, but it's just like a chunk of raw wool. And when you feel the hot spot developing, so the thing that I hear from most people is that we are stupid enough to ignore it. You feel it. You feel your sock rubbing, it's bothering you, but socially, especially in a group, you're too darn polite to stop. You don't want to slow progress. You don't want to complain. Well, all you are doing is making it worse for later. And the thing is with blisters is they never just immediately form. They always need friction to develop, which means you're ignoring it. So if you ignore it, or you don't do anything about it or try to mitigate it, then it's no wonder that you're going to have problems. I won't argue with ultra runners or trail runners because they seem to just embrace the suck. But with blisters, I think the biggest thing is if you can prevent a hot spot. So Blisswool is great because it goes right against the skin and you put your sock back on top of that, or you can put tape over it just to kind of give some cushioning and some natural fiber breathing. The other thing that I really, really like, and it depends on where you can find, but any kind of like, I don't care the brand, like kinesiology tape, the KT tape brand actually has little strips of pre-cut fabric. I think this is the new moleskin. So a lot of people will claim moleskin is great. Moleskin is just another product that allows it sticks to your skin so that the moleskin can do the friction piece against the sock or the shoe or the clothing or the backpack strap. So I like KT tape because if you dry your skin, KT tape or any kind of brand of kinesiology tape is supposed to stick to hot, sweaty skin. And I personally would rather use something that was made for my body than I particularly don't like duct tape, but it does work. And that's another thing that people use. So if I had to, or if this wasn't sticking or I was out, I could easily pull off my duct tape off of whatever little thing I've put it on and use that as well. The issue is when you see the picture here, you can't put duct tape on those blisters now that they've popped, because you will be sticking an adhesive against an injury. So a lot of people will put like, they'll maybe use moleskin and create a bit of a hole that gives some height around that blister. I really like moleskin even then because it will give a bit of a breathable barrier. This is where I'm probably gonna pull out my polysporin and my non-stick dressing and my Band-Aids and create a Band-Aid that doesn't stick to that raw injured skin underneath, and then try to cover and protect it. That's probably where the duct tape's gonna come in now to protect that blister. And there's a ton of resources online on how to do that. I would say that's one of the things we actually skip over in class because it's really hard to practice that if you don't have a blister to actually do it on. But there's a lot of personal preference when it comes to blisters. And yet at the end of the day, they literally can be the things that keep you from your objectives. So be careful with them and remember to keep them clean. You would hate for something as small and inconvenient as that to get infected to the point that you need to be hospitalized. So that's something to not take for granted, especially when you have dirty like hiker feet and things like that, because a clean environment is going to make you able to last way longer. Hold on. Oh, here was another question. So I don't know about you guys. I'm wearing a jacket today because it was actually kind of cool outside. And Kim's wearing a tank top. So it must be hot in Alberta. And it was kind of cool here. And I was also in my basement all day. So one of the questions that came up was what to do with heat. You already know. Like, we know that if I'm getting sick from the heat, that the solution is to cool down. Now, on a short notice here, I couldn't find the picture I wanted. I wanted a picture of that person in an environment like Kim's background. So the question I have for all of you is How will you cool someone when you are on a trail in a heat wave with a lot of exposure and no shade? So the human body, I'm actually kind of on a kick with this right now. There's a resource, Kim, Outside Online just shared a story about heat stroke. And it was sort of explaining the physiological effects of heat on the body, especially in regards to heat stroke. A lot of us have been through heat exhaustion where the heat just gets to us and makes us feel sick and tired and maybe nauseous and dizzy. But heat stroke, especially exertional heat stroke, is something that we have to be respectful of the fact that it is life threatening. And very quickly, when your core temperature rises above 40 degrees, you come into this dangerous zone of an entire physiological response to heat that your body cannot necessarily cope through. Very easily, you can go into like organ failure, a chemical change within your blood, and a whole lot of further complications, all in a very short and oftentimes surprising amount of time. And so what I would like to think is that we know that we need to cool them down. We probably have figured out that heat is the problem, but we can't. Out there, the thing that we need is we need to cool their core. And I'm sorry, but people thinking that a cool cloth on the forehead and a little bit of shade is going to take their core temperature down by 4 to 6 degrees. That is not possible. We need ice, we need submersion, we need water on the body, and we need fanning effects. We need everything thrown at this person who might be in exertional heat stroke to save their life. And so it's something that, oh, sorry, geez, oh my goodness. Oh boy. I think that's right. Still there? Oh, good. I think like I would really encourage you to reach out to the internet and find resources on exertional heat stroke and what you can do. And I really think that you need to be mindful of what will you do if someone gets that sick in certain areas where you adventure? Because once they collapse, there's no walking out now. So if they have got to a place of exertional heat stroke, where we see this, the first sign you're going to look for that will be what I call the umbles: stumbles, mumbles, fumbles, tumbles, and grumbles. You will see a cognitive change, a change in character, and an inability to be coherent. That will be the first sign. They might still be sweating. So it is not the sign of no sweating that is the first, warning sign that you're in heat stroke. Heat stroke will have that cognitive change and delirium. If you are in that phase, you are now entering a life-threatening situation and you need to deal with it as fast as possible. What my fear is, I've had one close call with this, but not at a heat stroke level. Once I realized that my friend was getting sick from the heat, I think we were on the doorstep. That if we had stayed out there any longer, reflecting now, I was at risk of her going into exertional heat stroke. And where we were and how far we are away and how, how her ability is, there's no way I could have got her out. And so I was very humbled by how close I pushed it to the doorstep of being at risk for that. She definitely was sick from the heat. When we got back to the parking lot, she sat in glacier water without a twinge of I'm sure she didn't feel how cold it was. And she slept for about 4 to 5 hours afterwards. It was afterwards, I was actually really upset with myself because of how close we came. It was scary. So be mindful of heat as we continue through the rest of this summer. Change your objectives. Go early morning, change what you're doing. Don't go as far, stay close to water. But heat is something that is right now, I think globally, we're seeing higher temperatures and we're seeing people not changing their objectives, and search and rescue is having to deal with that. And prevention is key here on this one. I'm ranting because I'm passionate about it. Okay, last one, I think. And then I'm going to go back through the questions. Oh, this came up. Apparently you guys like to hike with your dogs. So I'm sure that's, go with your dog. It's great. We'll save the whole rant on keep them on leash and all those life lessons that opinions aside. You know what I'm finding in stories is that even actually just the other day, there's a Canadian search and rescue team that had to rescue a hiker and their dog because the dog would not walk out anymore. And so I don't take my dogs on any big objectives. So I think the short distances that I take them, I could probably carry them out, but man, it would be messy. So I would strongly encourage you, if you take your canines, is that you look at, can you actually carry the weight of that dog who is no longer willing to walk on their own? And are you equipped, going back to first aid, with a canine first aid kit that has other tools like vet wrap and non-stick dressing and, pads for their feet to provide them first aid, a muzzle, so that you can attend to them if something happens. Or if something happens to you and somebody else has to deal with them. So I think we probably should put more thought into that, about how to help our canines and how to be personally responsible for being able to carry your own dog out. As a volunteer search and rescue, I know that we will go for dogs because we're actually worried about the humans who will do stupid things to help their dogs. And it's true, okay? But as a volunteer, I don't want to risk my life for a dog. And so we have to think about that when we are going out and we're asking our canines to do these objectives that maybe they're not suited for. And if you're not prepared, that was your responsibility to be prepared for that. There's lots of carrying harnesses and backpacking harnesses out there if you do some Google research. So I would strongly encourage you to look into that. Okay, that was it. Kim, I tried to do it really quick because I wanted to leave time for questions in these comments. I know I could talk for hours. So I was just wanting to go, I'm going to go back, I think, through these comments for a second. Lou says, with all this in mind, should we still carry Brave spray to just make sure bring soap? I would pack soap. I have it in your first aid kit. Have it. Aren't you washing your hands out there? It's kind of a dual purpose. Just saying. I mean, you can try alcohol, like hand sanitizer. We did, it didn't work very well. So I would stick with having a little bit of soap in a little container somewhere if you're carrying bear spray. What's another question here? When you get a hot spot or right off the start of the hike. So back to Carolee asked something about hot spots. I would say if you know that there are certain parts of your shoe that will cause a hot spot, do the prevention right from the start. But a lot of people will start to feel the rubbing. And honestly, rubbing can come even just from dirt or sand in your socks. So if you're not wearing gaiters or high socks or something. So as soon as you start to feel some sort of irritation, just stop and deal with it. Because it will just, that ounce of prevention is so worth it. But if you know you're breaking in shoes or just have something that bothers you, like even a backpack strap, try to deal with it right from the beginning, prevent it. Yeah, lots of people carry KT tape all the time and they use it for their muscles and all that kind of stuff, but it's great for blisters, prevention of blisters. It's not really great for the blister itself. Just reading. Oh, that's great. Jane says here that she had, a blister show up on a Girl Guide trip, and it was a very distracting injury. It's so true. I hear more stories of blisters, honestly. I should start asking people to send me their pictures. Another person says using handle of a spoon or spatula to see light redness or bruising can help release heat from the body. Yeah, there's a little bit of I'm not a physician at all, but basically we're trying to promote blood flow to the skin, and we're trying to promote a cooling effect of the evaporative effect of sweat on the skin. So honestly, at that point, try anything, and focus on your heat zone. So your neck, your core, your groin, your abdomen, your head. A lot of people, just even dousing the head and the hair can be very cooling, but doing it once and then letting it dry is not enough. It has to be quite continuous and an ongoing effort until that core temperature is cooled. People spend too much time air conditioned. Yeah, there's a lot of people, Andrea says, kind of referencing acclimatization. So there's a lot of ultra runners that are used to running in extreme heats, and they condition themselves for that, or hikers or anybody like that. Honestly, you take a Canadian and you go down to Vegas or Arizona, and I'm going to melt on a sidewalk within seconds, right? come up here for winter and we'll have a talk, right? So we're all acclimatized to the areas in which we live. So I think that the other thing that heat is deceiving about is like your body type, your body size, your body weight, your physical like condition today. Just a bad day. Like I could be, I don't know, today my body hates the heat because my body hates me. I don't know. It's everybody has a different effect to the heat depending on their current health and condition as well. Oh, Sarah, pet first aid class. Oh, October 22nd. Nice. I think you guys were sharing that information about that canine first aid. So that's great. So everybody's got dogs, look for that here in Canada or in your area. That'd be great. Oh, Pam says Dawn soap is also great for stinging nettle and things like that. That's really true. So poison ivy is another one. So if you roll around in poison ivy because you were running away from a bear that you were really scared about like having an encounter with, and now you're scratching your legs and you're like, oh shit, I got poison ivy all over me. I wouldn't even be able to recognize poison ivy. I'd just be like, oh, darn, now I'm burning everywhere. And I probably went from my leg to my head and it's, yeah. So anytime you start to put those dots together, get out the soap. It's, you need to scrub, you need to lather. That'll be your best friend for anything like that. Sarah asked, someone was curious about quick clot works for stopping bleeds. So in the world of first aid, especially in Stop the Bleed, there's a big push now to pull from the military sort of tradition of using quick clot and other hemostatic dressings and impregnated stuff. Absolutely, they do work, but they have their limitations, and you're going to need to know and understand what the product is and how it can be applied to actually know what it will do. A lot of those quick clot type things were used for external use only. So they were for more superficial external wounds that were bleeding from the surface of your skin layers. They are not going to be something that will actually stop the bleeding without other attempts at pressure, wound packing, and possibly even tourniquets. So yes, they're out there, they're becoming more available, but they are freaking expensive. And in Canada, honestly, I am not going to invest in a $30 single packet unless I'm in a high risk environment where that is a very important tool to have for me. So the tourniquet is more of a realistic investment, in my opinion, but it's on the shelf of tools that are available to us with some training and knowledge for sure. Absolutely. Jane asked, you know, any herbal remedies for your first aid knowledge? Mental toolkit using nature in your area. Okay, so Jane, I will admit to you, I have been around people who know the land and use the land, and especially with our Indigenous community here in Saskatchewan. And it's funny that they always impart on me like, oh, well, you can use dandelion for this, or you can use red willow for this. And I'm like, great, how do I get it out of the plant? Like, so there is so much knowledge that mainstream first aid has not drawn from the Indigenous or natural-based sort of remedies that are out there. And I only hope that one day I start to learn not only what they might do for me, but how to do that with them. And I would say that, you know, look for elders or land-based educators who actually are an expert in that, and really open your mind to those natural remedies. You won't find it in regular first aid courses at all. And I just respect that it's out there, but I haven't done it myself to pursue more knowledge. Dog first aid. What's the best way to stabilize a fracture until you get help? Okay, so I'm going to tell you a true story. So last couple weeks ago, I went with the Lost Girls Guide. Ashlyn George is a travel writer here in Saskatchewan. We went down to Colorado for this like guided adventure trip. It was super fun. And she broke her foot like 4 days before we left. I Told You So was definitely a part of my conversation with her. So she wore a walking boot. She had a fractured foot, an ankle, and it was an old injury as well, but this was a new fracture. And she was determined to partake. So the walking boot was a great asset, but I will tell you this, her body awareness of holding her injured foot in a position that made it feel better was the greatest asset that she and our group had. After a day on the sand dunes with the walking boot, something changed and it didn't feel right. And so even though the walking boot was on, it wasn't working or doing what she thought it should be doing because something had changed. And she just knew she had to hold her foot a certain way to relieve the pain that she was feeling. So what I would say is that the first thing you need to do with a suspected fracture, especially if it's not so obvious, or even if it is obvious, is listen to the person's body. When you can remove the distraction from the pain and focus on what do they need, a lot of times they will hold, guard, or stabilize the injury themselves. So anything that we build in the world of splinting is to support that. Okay. Now, lastly, if you go to a first aid course, understand that any splinting that is taught to you is kind of a lie. Like, sorry. Okay. It's a lie because you are practicing splinting principles on uninjured people. Every single splint I make in a class looks the same. The leg is straight, it's not injured, it's not angulated, it is not a splint that fits to a real injury. So if you have a good instructor that teaches you how to listen to the person and modify every single splint to fit the position and the needs that the person feels they have, you will probably make better splints or supportive, like, wraps. Okay. What I would say is, from a splinting perspective, hoodies and base layer kind of puffy jackets are great for splinting. Tensor bandages or elastic wraps are excellent tools to help you build something. If you need sticks or hiking poles or other things, that's fine, but do not underestimate the value of a tensor bandage or elastic wrap and a couple triangle bandages. Because if you have to build something, you're going to need padding, you're going to need support wraps and things like that. Tying sticks to the limb. Tie it. Sure, tie 2 sticks to a limb. Go find the perfect sticks. And then ask that person how tight they want it and how long they'll last till those 2 sticks get really freaking annoying. Sometimes I find that the sticks tied to the limb, it's a great start, but you're going to need padding between the sticks, or they won't be able to handle the pressure that the sticks are now pushing into them as they wear it, especially for a longer duration. So sticks are a part of the splint process, but they're not the only solution. Len, okay, we got the Cat Gen 7. Oh, thanks, Sarah's iPhone. Build your herbal first aid kit. That's great. That's a good resource. Okay, I'm kind of looking. I think that's that wrap works well for people as well. Thanks, Hans. Absolutely. That wrap doesn't stick to arm hair or leg hair. So it's really, really good for that kind of stuff. If you carry it, it's bulky and it sometimes melts to itself, but it's a really good tool for sure. Okay, what else? Kim, 7 minutes.
No, it's amazing. It's okay. You don't have to go all the way straight to 8. Oh. But no, this is great. Good questions and great stories that help so much. So thank you so much for your time. There'll probably be more questions after, but folks can post them on you're on Facebook too, right? So they can find you on Back40, and also wanted to mention that we are going to give away some prizes, so we could do that right now, and maybe more questions might come up before the end. Sarah, did you want to do the prizes? Of course, I know Rebecca's already mentioned Blisswool, so maybe we'll give away Blisswool first, which is a company a friend of mine started to try to help people like herself who would get terrible blisters when she go hiking. So we're going to give one of those away, and you can also go to Blisswool's website, and you'll be able to order some if you don't win tonight, and just use the coupon code RECSAFE and you'll get 15% off. And then we'll give away a couple scat belts, which you probably saw in the presentation by Rebecca, and they're just holsters to carry your bear spray, and you can put them right over top of your rain jacket or your down if it's in the winter and you're in Cougar Land. And they're a great, easy way to carry bear spray when you're doing all kinds of stuff, from walking your dog to mountain biking. They also have a holder for your phone, so you can just carry it, just put it all on and you're ready to go. Obviously doesn't have a spot for your first aid kit, so if you are actually going to go do a trip, you better be carrying that stuff as well. So we'll give away a couple of those, and if you don't win, you can go to scatbelt.com and you can order them, get 15% off, and you'll just use the, again, coupon code RECSAFE. And the last one is, if you want to take one of our bear safety classes, we have a 2-hour bear safety course online, and we also have a 70-minute bear spray class, and everyone tonight will send you an email tomorrow with all the links for this stuff. But if you would like to take our bear safety course, you get 20% off with the coupon code First Aid 20. But again, that'll all be in the thank you that we'll send out tomorrow, and Sarah will get tonight's recording onto the YouTube channel, which will also be in the links that we send you. So check your email tomorrow and your thank you for attending the course tonight, and all of those resources will be there, and including, of course, a link to Rebecca and her work, so you can go and take a wilderness first aid course. And maybe one day when I finally finish my cabin in the mountains, we can have a giant party in the mountains. We can invite Rebecca, and everyone can learn wilderness first aid and bear safety, and the whole world will be a heck of a lot safer.
I'll be there.
All right. Go, Sarah.
Thanks, Kim. So yeah, we have a bunch of prizes to give away, and I've just chosen some random winners from whoever attended the talk this evening. So the winner of the Blissed Wool prize is Suzanne McKinney. Congratulations, Suzanne. By the way, for the winners, I will email you. You don't have to email me. I have all your emails because you signed up. So yeah, I will send you an email tomorrow, and you will get the prizes sent out to you. As for the scat belts, we've got 2 scat belts we're giving away tonight. So the winner for those is Tenzin Dolma and Corinne Jansen. Congratulations. And then our awesome bear safety course, we have 2 of those that we're giving away. So the winner for those is Leanne Coder and Warda Fadil. Congrats, everybody. And yes, as Kim said, I will send you an email after the talk with all the discount links for everybody for the scat belt and our bear safety course, and we'll have the link to the YouTube channel and everything else that you need. So you don't have to memorize everything.
Awesome. Thank you everyone for being here. Thank you, Sarah. Thank you, Rebecca. Thank you to all our amazing volunteers who are here tonight and who have been really promoting this on all the different rec sites and clubs and groups that they know in their communities. The more information, and as I said to a client today that had a staff charged by a grizzly bear and survived, you know, knowledge is power, and you could save someone's life, and you could save your life, a family member's life. Learning this stuff is, you're never going to regret having this knowledge. You're never going to regret knowing what to do in the rare case that these things happen. And yeah, take this information home, tell your family and friends, and join us and take some more of our classes. We've got some really fun stuff coming up in the next couple months that we've got organized, and Sarah's been working hard to get ready. So hope to see you at the next one. So thanks everyone, and have a good night. Thank you, Rebecca. It's like literally like seconds to 8 o'clock. Like never happens.
I know.
All right, bye everyone. Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks, Rebecca. Bye, Sarah.
Have a great trip.
Thank you. I'll definitely make sure I've got all my first aid in mind.
I'll follow what you post. I'll be excited to hear about it.
For sure. Okay, thank you. Bye.